and her name is Jasmine Hernandez-Lavezo. We've been working with Jasmine through Project Arise for several years now. She has a lot of great information that she's going to share today. I want to let you know that Matt's recording, but the recording typically just puts the screen and then the speaker. So if you're not speaking, feel free to leave your camera on if you want to wave to us and have us see your wave. So we'll pass you on to Jasmine. Thanks so much for being here, everyone.
Thanks so much, Nicole. Hi, everybody. Jasmine Hernandez-Lavezo. So thrilled to be with you today, coming to you from Sacramento, California, native of Turlock, like an hour-ish south of Sacramento, hour and a half east of Oakland, right in the middle of California. I've been an elementary school teacher. Tiny humans are my favorite. In Los Angeles, and then most of my career in Oakland and San Francisco. And that is where I met my incredible colleague, who is also an Oakland educator, Gretchen Livesey. She'll be in the chat with you today. High school expert, principal, coach, longtime educator. So we are going to tag team this session, all things TK through high school. If you're just coming, welcome, welcome. Put your name, your role, your location in the chat. Hi, everybody. I know some of you are in transit or driving or just listening or maybe like lesson planning or whatever has to be done, having a snack, totally fine. You can put that you are here. This is what's going to happen today. We're going to talk about executive functions. We're going to talk about executive functions in adolescence and how it impacts literacy. And then we're going to give you some tools. So you're going to leave with something. You're going to learn something new, and then we're going to give you a tool to help you with that, to support your students or to give to your teachers supporting students. Incredible. I'm seeing everybody here. LAUSD, MJUSD, CCCOE. Amazing. Okay. Before we jump in, on your phone or on a piece of paper, bring to mind 1 to 3 specific students whose literacy you are working to support right now. If you're not in the classroom right now, who is maybe 1 to 2 teachers that you're supporting? Or if you want to bring back, I'll bring back Amilcar and Edwin, 2 of my students that I supported with literacy. Let's just ground in 2 students. So even though we're spending this next hour doing our own learning, we always just want to bring the students to the forefront. And we know that so many of us are in education because we care deeply about the lives of the young people we support. So Amilcar and Edwin, this one's for you. We're going to jump right in. Before we do that, let's just take a minute to take a breath. It's 3:36. School gets out at 3 over here. So, just got out. Some big breaths. Close your eyes if you can. You just move your shoulders. All right, just get in a learner stance for the next hour. We often are supporting kids and supporting adults, and we don't get time to just learn. So just be a learner. Everything else that you've got going on, it's going to be okay. And just give some gratitude to yourself for coming to this webinar. Executive functions. What do I mean by that? Let's watch a short video. We will share it with you in the chat. We won't watch the whole thing. This is just an overview from Harvard, from the Center for the Developing Child, just talking about executive functions in kids, why it matters, why they need it. So let's just ground there for a bit. Okay, here we go.
Science tells us that brains, minds, are built, not born. And at the center of this dynamic architecture are a set of skills called executive function and self-regulation.
Children's self-regulation and executive function are key ingredients in their lifetime performance. It's not just about learning language or learning numbers or learning colors. We have to be able to work effectively with others, with distractions, with multiple demands. These actually are skills that contribute to the productivity of the American workforce.
Just look at your shapes. What should you have done next?
Educators, I think, are looking for just this sort of thing. And when we describe what we mean by executive function, they say, yes, that's it. That's exactly, the problem. These kids, they can tell me these rules, but they can't actually use them.
What's this?
A toolbox.
A tool.
What is executive function?
Safety goggles. Probably the best way to think about it is sort of like an air traffic control system in the brain. Just like an air traffic control system has to manage lots of airplanes going on lots of runways and really exquisite timing and so on, a child has to manage a lot of information and avoid distractions. We really think of it as involving working memory and inhibitory control and mental flexibility. Take a situation where a child is having to take turns. So first of all, the child has to have inhibitory control. The child has to be able to stop whatever he or she is doing and let the other child take a turn. Cute. But when it's your turn again, you also have to remember what it is you're supposed to be doing. So the children who are taking the turns after you do something unpredictable, you have to be able to adjust what you're going to do next. And that requires mental flexibility. Children who are struggling with these capacities often look like children who just aren't paying attention, or children who are deliberately not controlling themselves.
If you don't have self-regulation, you act out and the teacher puts you in timeout, and so then you miss part of the learning that's going on, and then you are more upset because you're behind, and so you act out, and so you get this downward spiral.
How does executive function develop?
7, and +4.
In little children, and even in the infant and toddler years, you begin to see the roots of executive functioning skills. What's going on in our brains is unbelievably intricate and complicated.
The prefrontal cortex, or the front third of the brain, is important for executive function. But it's more than just prefrontal cortex. This region doesn't act alone. It's involved in controlling your behavior through its interactions with all other parts of the brain. The brain goes from a situation where you've got nearest neurons communicating very strongly with each other and ignoring the rest of the brain, to these widespread networks that are connecting these different areas. Executive.
Okay, so we're going to pause right there. We'll share the whole thing with you. What's one thing that resonated with you or surprised you from the video? Put it in the chat. And if you're just joining us, thanks so much for coming. It is always okay to come to our sessions a few minutes late. We know it's after school time. And if you're just joining, take a few breaths, get some water, get a snack. We're so glad you're here. What is something from the video that surprised you? Or you were like, oh, interesting. I like what they said about the air traffic control system. I just got that visual. I'm like, whoa, that is a lot happening. If you think of the person sitting there and all of the airplanes that are landing, that are taking off, all of the panels in front of them. That's what's happening in a young person's brain. And we're asking them to do so many things. They also talked in the video about, we think that some kids are just not paying attention. And I can say that as a teacher, I remember being there like, this student they just don't listen. They don't pay attention. I'm talking to them and teaching them, and they're choosing not to. I did not know about all of the skills they needed in their brain to be able to pay attention and learn in class. And it's not about that paying attention. It's actually about all of the things they need to have their brain ready for learning. Okay, so inhibitory control, we talked about in the video, but it involves being able to control our attention, our behavior, our thoughts, our emotions, and to override a strong internal predisposition or an external lure. So like, for example, me here, if my phone goes off or my watch goes off, I have to ignore it because I'm here with all of you. That's using my executive functions. You know, think of a young person in middle school, all of their thoughts like, okay, during passing period, this person was wearing this. I got a text from this person. I have to turn in my assignment next period. So all of these things that we're doing to control our attention, our behavior, our thoughts. Memory, how we hold all of that information in and work with it. So we're really focusing on adolescents in this session. So think of all of the periods that they have during the day, all of the different topics, the workload, the assignments. This working memory is not the same as short-term memory. Short-term memory stores information and it involves a different part of the brain. Working memory involves keeping information in mind and working with it. So translating instructions into action plan, incorporating new information into our thinking, considering alternatives, working memory. Cognitive flexibility. Ooh, this one's tough. Changing the ability to be able to change perspectives spatially or interpersonally. Changing how we think about something or thinking outside the box. This one's the toughest for me, even as an adult. It means being flexible enough to be able to adjust to change demands and priorities. If you're a principal or a leader, administrator, coach in this building, think of all of those things that come up during the day. If you're an elementary school teacher, those 25 students and all of the things they're asking you to do. And when a student isn't grasping a new concept, because we work so hard, our own cognitive load is so full, our human nature just want to say, oh, if only they could do that faster, if only they would have just grasped what I was teaching. But if we could be flexible and consider a different perspective, we could say, what might I, the teacher, do differently? How can I present the material differently? How can I word the question differently so that this student can succeed? And there's a lot of overlap between cognitive flexibility, creativity, task switching, and set shifting. It's the opposite of rigidity. Oof, thinking a lot of that in terms of like, many of us teachers are like type A. We do not, we thrive in rigidity. You're like, this thing at this time, yes, absolutely. Cognitive flexibility, the opposite. Okay, so we've talked about this 3 parts of executive function. And why are those important? Well, because it's much more than just being organized. It's more about helping to build these more complex skills. So look at all of these. And in the chat, tell me, do any of these come natural? Which come naturally to you? And which do you feel like you have to work at or you're not as strong as? Organizing, yes, for me, number 1. I can organize anything. I have to fight the urge to organize a messy drawer or a messy closet. I love that skill. But let's see. What's another one that I might have trouble with? Maybe prioritizing. Now I work, I have young kids, I have so many things that I want to be able to do for so many people. So that's something that I have to work on. Catherine says planning is easy. Staying organized, not so much. Gretchen, organizing, but self-monitoring is hard. Yeah. These are all skills that executive function help us build on. The three core executive functions: cognitive flexibility, working memory, inhibitory control. They're all intertwined and they work together in our brain and our behavior. Like the video said, executive functions develop from early childhood through young adulthood. So we have here what they were talking about in that video. See this huge spike here in the graph? And if you're just joining us, we just gave an overview. You haven't missed too much. We just gave an overview of executive functions. You can watch the recording. And then there's also a short video that gives an overview of executive functions. So that's what they are. Now this is what they look like. So are you ready? So if you can, turn your camera on. We're going to do some interacting. Don't leave. It's okay if you can't do it, but we're going to practice some of our executive functions together. Seems kind of complex and big, right? You're like, what are those? We're going to explore these components through some classic executive function tasks. So for each task, we're going to do an activity together, and then we'll have the opportunity to reflect on how we use. So if you can, I want you to come off of video and then turn your mic off because you're going to have to talk to me. Okay, thumbs up if we could do that. Good, I see some of you. Okay, you ready? So you're going to say the word, not the color. Go.
Red.
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 Doing it. Okay, again, we're going to say.
Wait, go backwards, Jazz. Say the color, not the word, everybody.
Yeah.
Green. Green.
Green.
Oh, okay. We're going to do it again. We're going to say the next one. We're going to say the color, not the word.
Purple.
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 Great. Now, what's the word, not the color?
Green.
Green.
Yes. Okay. Say the color, not the word.
Red.
Red.
Super. Color, not the word.
Green.
Green.
Color, not the word.
Blue.
Blue.
Color, not the word.
Orange.
Word, not the color.
Purple.
Purple.
See, we're getting, yeah. Say the color, not the word.
Red.
Red.
One more time.
Purple.
Purple.
One more time.
Blue.
Blue.
Ooh, good job. Yay, we did it. Okay, so stay off of mute because I want you to share. How did you use your executive functions in that task? And remember, they're cognitive flexibility, working memory, inhibitory control. Anybody who wants to share first, go for it. How'd you use it? Mrs. Emily, go for it.
Inhibitory control, I think, is what would be where like I'm having to inhibit saying the word versus the color kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I can see like cognitive flexibility too. I think inhibitory control is what came to me.
Yeah. Anybody else? What'd you use?
I would say working memory, having to remember the instructions, although you were pretty good at reminding us every single slide. So I didn't have to do too much of that. It was good scaffolding.
Wonderful. Good job, everyone. So we're doing it. We're using our executive functions now. Now think, the students that I support, when do they have to use those skills? Like think, what did that task bring up for you? We're going to do another one. Are you ready? Okay. So in this task, you're going to see a set of numbers flash on the screen. And after they disappear, you have to repeat the numbers in ascending order.
So like 3, 4, 6, 8.
Yes.
Okay. So I just want to make okay.
Yep, in ascending order, okay? We can all do it. We're going to be off of mute, so we're definitely going to have to use our inhibitory control and not say what other people are saying. Okay, ready? Go.
3, 4, 5, 6, 8, 9.
Yep, and anybody can share. We're going to do it again. We're going to do another one.
1, 2, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9.
Excellent, excellent. Okay, anybody else? The numbers we just saw.
1, 2, 4, 5, 7, 8, 9.
Yes, Miss King, yes. Okay, and so what did we use here? What executive functions did we use?
Working memory.
Absolutely, working memory. Great job, everybody. You didn't know I was putting you to work. Last one. This is called the Wisconsin card sorting. You're going to be asked to sort the playing cards on the screen into groups using any rule. So you could just, since we're off mute, or you can come back off of mute and tell us how you sorted the cards. Here's the first one. Sort the cards using any rule. Anybody can come off of mute and share.
Sort by shape.
Right? Anybody else do that as well? Any me teams?
Sort by color.
Yep. Color.
Quantity. It's like 1, 2, and 3, 4.
Yep. Anybody else? Someone said in a previous session, I did all the stars and the not stars. Like, yeah, get it? All the good ones. Someone also said like the ones that had like hard angles, 90-degree angles for math terms. Okay, here we go. Choose a different rule and try to choose one that hasn't been said. How would you sort them?
Sort by shapes you learn the names of in kindergarten and shapes that don't get named in kindergarten.
Ooh, yes, yes. Love that.
I did by number in ascending order, making sure that they were different shapes.
Oh, Gretchen, look at us go. Okay. And question for anybody in the group, which of our executive functions did we use in that task?
Cognitive flexibility.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then question for you, who would use these tasks with a student? And then if you would, what grade level would you use it with? Miss King says fourth grade. Yeah, anybody else?
All the grades.
All the grades, absolutely. Can you imagine the things kinders would say?
Yeah, I have TK. That's what I was thinking. Even
Yeah,
my kid.
absolutely. Our kids are so brilliant. Even think of our adolescents, which we're focusing on today. Think of the things that they would say. Anyone worked with an adolescent today? Anyone want to think if you gave this to a group of 7th graders, what would they say? Just think of this specific Wisconsin card sorting tool. What's something that a 7th grader might say to us if we're like, hey, we're going to practice our executive functions. I have a card task for you. What might be the response that you would get?
I feel like by this age, they learn to fear getting the wrong answer and may be less willing to put themselves out there and be creative. Like shapes I learned in kindergarten versus not. They may be, especially as we have more and more AI and technology, less willing to exercise that creativity, out of the box thinking.
Oh, yes. I love how you're thinking about that adolescent brain and what they've already learned, what they're coming into school with. Anybody else? I taught 8th grade for 1 year. I think I would say, why do I have to do this? Is this a test? How many right answers are there? Did I get it right? Did I get it wrong? Gretchen, I saw you come off of mute.
I was also thinking, just having experienced Halloween and guessing almost every single Halloween costume incorrectly because I no longer am in a classroom, that they might have some social media or video game, even if they call them video games, gaming reference or something that these shapes might remind them of, that they might sort by?
Yes, yes. Okay, so we practice our executive functions. I want you, Gretchen is going to put this in the chat. This is called an executive function self-assessment. So we're going to pause for a few minutes. I'm going to put some music on, and we're going to take this self-assessment ourselves. So it's going to ask you a couple of questions. Since we're all educators here, it would be at work. So for example, at work, getting started on my work right away. Is it never challenging, sometimes challenging, often challenging, always challenging? So maybe choose 5 that you want to do. So we're going to put on some music, maybe take like 3 minutes, choose 5 of these self-assessment questions, and then we're going to come back and we're going to share out whole group, okay? How we did and any reflections that we might be having. That was a lot of directions, but I think you got it. Are we good? Self-assessment, just 5 questions, and then we'll come back and share. Here we go.
Jasmine, should they make a copy of this for themselves before they?
You can make a copy, definitely. Thank you, Gretchen. Or you can just, do it.
Look
on
at
your
it.
phone, look at it, do it on a piece of, like on a journal if you have next to you. Make a copy. Thank you, Gretchen. Great question. Okay, so when it comes to our own executive functions, what's easiest for us? What's most challenging? And then also follow-up question, what in our environment supports or hinders our executive functions? Or you can share whatever you thought coming out of this self-assessment. Who wants to go first?
I'll go.
Go ahead, Shannon.
So I struggled with all of these as a kid, but I have like developed really strong coping skills. So I'm actually quite good at most of these things now. But I do find that like I find what I think is the most efficient way, and then there's some rigidity to that, So if admin introduces something new, or even somebody shows me a better way, I get stuck, it's sometimes it's hard for me to be flexible and work with a new way and wrap my brain around it, especially if it's something technical.
Yes, yes. Thank you for sharing. I saw Megan come off of mute. Would you like to share, Megan?
I kind of share that experience with Shannon of struggling a lot with these skills growing up and developing a lot of coping skills that can be my greatest strength and also my greatest weakness. And I have most of my career as a special education teacher, so I'm constantly like, what's my IEP? Why?
Yes.
What's the root cause of things that are
Yeah.
challenging for me and working memory like that was like I couldn't even do that task. Like it's like a hole in my brain, and there's a few other things, so it's really interesting. Like it's super contextual. In a lot of these, like we know about our learners, like our strengths and needs are contextual, but
Yes.
that hyper focus can be a thing when I'm really engaged and it's something that I know I can do. I can sit there for 12 hours and just be like super
Yes.
into it. But if I'm like kind of bored, it's very like choose your own adventure in not like a very stimulating way. And it's much harder to resist distractions and things like that. But always, no matter what, it's really difficult. I think probably because of that working memory is like the resisting the urge to interrupt or I have a really hard time when someone's talking for a really long time and there's lots of details because I feel like the anxiety of like, I have the
Yes.
thought and when it's
Yes.
time to share, I'm gonna forget what it was, and and like I'm gonna forget, and then you're not listening anyway. So, like that's just always and probably will be forever, like going on inside me. But it's just funny the things we start to realize about ourselves and
Yes.
we're like functioning adults. And I do appreciate the language of the survey of like, it's not like do you often interrupt people? I'm like, I'm less likely to be honest with myself versus
Yes.
is it
I
hard
would
for you
never
to
do that.
resist doing that? I'm like, oh yeah.
Yes. Oh, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
One more person would love to hear from you. And feel free to share in the chat. Okay, so I don't know if you remember the first time we did distance learning. Was it March 2020, 5 years ago? And having to sit in one chair at my computer at my kitchen table for 8 hours. I'm like, why did I never do this exercise before becoming a teacher? I expected my students to sit all day without getting wiggly. I became a teacher a very long time ago, and it was still when we moved cards. Remember in elementary school, you had like the different color cards and you had to move it behind. And I remember at the end of the day, I'm like, change your card because they were getting wiggly. And then I remember having this realization, like, I'm a grown woman. I'm a mother with children, and I cannot even sit in a chair all day. And I expected children for years to be able to do that. I always think of that when it was like sitting still and not fidgeting during a longer task like a meeting. Nope, can't do it. Can't do it. Oh, I notice here a comment in the chat talking about differences in our own executive functions at school, at work versus home. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, work persona and home persona. Very, very good call out there. Okay, so do you think, oh, this is something else I wanted to share. We often think that our adolescents are coming in, they've been in school for a long time, and they should know how to do these things. But like Megan pointed out a moment ago, we're adults and we're still working through these things. So I want us to think about these executive functions in our adolescence as skills that we still have to be supporting them with. I know that in kindergarten, teachers do a fantastic job of teaching all of the skills you have to do. Like I remember teaching second grade and 2 doors down, hearing Miss Shanaholt say, "Oh, no, we don't eat trash from the trash can." And I remember thinking, that's something you have to teach. Yes, that is something you have to teach. You don't take exciting looking things out of the trash and eat them at school. And in kinder, we're like, we have to teach so many things. But I want us just to think for adolescents, we have to teach how to resist distractions. And that's our executive functions. That's our inhibitory control. Very like adolescent way that we can talk about these skills that they still need practice with because their brains are still learning and growing. And we can also bring our own experience in and say, this is something I have to work on in meetings. This is something that when my boss asks me to do, challenges me. So like bringing in our own reflections on our own skills and how they grow and how we work on them and how we don't just have these or not, right? Okay, I said a lot of words. I want you to think back about those students at the beginning. So if you join late, it's okay, but at the beginning, we're like, let's just think of like 1 to 3 students that we're working with. And I want you to tell me in the chat, how would you describe their executive functions? So now that we had an overview of executive functions, did our own self-assessment, how would you describe the skills, the executive function skills of those students? I'm thinking about my Emil Carr and my Edwin. Put it in the chat for me. I'll give you a minute. Inhibitory control, maybe not a strength. Yep. Risk-taking impacted by their confidence. Yes. Students not alone. Absolutely. Okay, so now we're going to talk about executive functions specifically in literacy. Here we go. We know that they are critical and intertwined with reading and writing skills on a neurobiological level based on what we can observe. So here you have Scarborough's rope, but we have this updated, adapted version of Scarborough's rope. How researchers have added executive function kind of around because it has such a crucial and important role in supporting and moderating reading development, along with language comprehension and word recognition. This is a quote. I'm not going to read the whole thing for you, but I just want to read this first part. Reading equals hard mental work. We know that. In the brain has to literally rearrange itself to learn to read. And this is because we aren't born with the ability to read. This is like a human invention, right? Executive function integrates and synchronizes the many sub-processes involved in reading. Here's a huge list. I know you're not supposed to put a lot of text on slides. Very bad presenter move of me, but it goes to show you that executive functions can affect students' ability to do all of these things. So all of these things involved in their literacy development, interconnection between their executive function skills and their literacy skills. So if we want to support our students' literacy development, we must support their executive functions. Okay, the slide is overwhelming. I'm going to change it. So we're zeroing in now specifically on executive functions in adolescence. Oh, adolescence, this beautiful time where the brain is primed for change. Young kiddos before 5, window of change. Second most important window, adolescence. And it makes sense when you think about everything that's happening in their bodies, it's also happening in their brain. Connections in the brain are strengthened, and those connections that are not used are pruned away. These pathways that you see in the brain, they become efficient. And there's this layer of fat called myelin that actually insulates the connections to make them send signals much faster. It's a good thing for our literacy development. It's a time of rapid change happening in the prefrontal cortex. It's part of the brain that controls the executive function, regulates thoughts, emotions, behavior. The second area that's going through significant change is the amygdala. The amygdala reacts to stress and emotional arousal, and these two regions affect one another. So when the amygdala, this almond-shaped organ in the brain, is triggered by stress or intense emotion, an adolescence period of intense emotions, it overrides the prefrontal cortex to do its job. So the amygdala, intense emotion, overrides, it like control-alt-deletes the prefrontal cortex. So young people cannot regulate their thoughts, emotions, or behaviors. Think of seeing, I see different in my mind, this happening with young people. What stressors do you think are likely to show up during literacy, especially for adolescents, and affect students' ability to use their executive functions? If you're watching this recording, I hope you're still with us. Think about those students. What stressors in the amygdala? And put these in the chat for me, will you? Shannon says social anxiety. Distractions, auditory distractions. Parental expectations, peer judgment, wanting to look smart, past results. So those are all the stressors here on the amygdala. And then we're asking them to use their executive functions, right? Their working memory, inhibitory control, cognitive flexibility. But remember what happens with the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex? It's that like control, alt, delete. And we need all of those executive functions to be able to read. You saw that slide that had way too much text on it. All of those things. So our students, if we're not intentionally developing their executive functions, we're not intentionally developing their literacy development. These stressors, these emotions are so connected to their prefrontal cortex. Whew, that was a lot of information I gave you. So how do we do that? So the science of learning and development, and what I love most about working at the Center for Whole Child Education is that neuroscience, that decades of research tells us a really optimistic story about what's possible for young people. And we have learned so much in the past 5, 10, 15 years about the adolescent brain that is really painting this really positive picture of what's possible for our adolescents, and is really changing their narrative from, teens, middle school, it's like the worst grades, the hardest classes, to the brain is primed for change in adolescence. So much incredible pruning, strengthening, reworking is happening in the brain during adolescence, that for those students that are still on their literacy development journey, we can use this window of opportunity to support them. So if you don't remember anything else from today, I want you to remember that this is a prime window for change. And the science tells us that a really hopeful story is possible for our young people. So all of you supporting adolescence and literacy right now, a lot of growth is possible. And we're going to share with you a couple of things that you can do to explicitly support those executive functions. I remember sitting as a teacher in PD and hearing all this information, being like, yeah, okay, I believe that. I want to do that. And they're like, all right, PD's done. Great. Good luck with lesson planning. And I would be like, but how? But how am I going to do that? Just tell me. So this is what I love that we have at the center, this optimistic story and tools that are grounded in that science and research to support you. One thing before I share those tools, I have another video, but I'm looking at the time. We're just going to share the video for later. I want to spend some time looking at these tools, and I want Gretchen and I to be able to answer any questions. This video is basically telling you that in middle school and high school, you can boost executive functions for teens, for adolescents, because what is possible in their brain. We made a real-time decision there. Okay. Let's get into this tool. We have the executive functions self-assessment. This is a version that you can use with students. And after you do this self-assessment, it gives you a bank of strategies that they can use. This is what that bank of strategies looks like. This is the first page. So you will do the self-assessment with maybe a small group of kids, maybe your advisory class, maybe an entire class of if you're supporting a teacher. And then you will use this strategy bank as menu options. And you will work to include executive function scaffolds and practice opportunities within literacy instruction. So it isn't like this is literacy time and this is like SEL executive function time. You're doing the executive functions during the literacy instruction. And you can use these strategies to strengthen a unit or a lesson plan, or to tailor supports for a small group of students or even an individual student. So this isn't something extra. These things are integrated together. Another idea is you can work as a team and you can say, okay, a strategy we can use is to simplify directions and to reduce task complexity. This is what that looks like. This is how it supports students' executive function. For simplifying directions, we use as few words as possible. We make sure that language is concrete as opposed to abstract. And what that does to support executive function is that it reduces extraneous information and it frees up that working memory capacity. So these are things that we can do within our literacy instruction, within our small group instruction, that will support all students' executive functions, not just those students that are struggling with their literacy, but all of our adolescents. So this is a planning resource. This is how you can intentionally include executive function supports. And this is what you can use with students. This is a strategy called 5-4-3-2-1. And the purpose of this is, in the busyness of our lives, sometimes we lose track of the present moment and how we're feeling. Use this strategy to tune into your body and surroundings. The directions are: find a space where you can spend a few minutes undistracted by people or things around you. Breathe deeply and slowly as you complete the following steps. Then it's like 5, notice 5 things you see. 4 things your body feels. And you can model this in your teams, in a small group of teachers that you're coaching. You can do this with each other. You can show students that this is a way to build their own executive functions. I just want to go back and recap. Students can take a self-assessment. Teachers can use this literacy strategy bank as a menu of options to explicitly support executive functions in our content. And then students have these strategies that they can use themselves to strengthen and support their own executive functions. I'm going to pause there and I'm going to open the space for questions. We're almost at time, but I want to make sure that you have time for questions. They're all in there, so you could be looking at them. What are some questions or worries that are coming up? Or what are some possibilities that might be coming up? You can put in the chat or come off of mute. We're only like 20 people, so there's space for you to come off of mute, and Gretchen and I are available to answer any questions. So we said, this is what executive functions are. This is what they look like in literacy. This is what they look like for adolescents. And now this is the how you can strengthen and support those. What questions might you have for us? I'm just going to give like a minute of wait time and put some music on. I want to open the space for anyone. Emily shared reflection. We're coming to the closing of our time together. Okay, no pressure, but I want to summarize what we talked about today. Executive functions, they're a set of skills that act like the air traffic control system for our brain. Manage information, avoid distractions, adapt to the moment to help us achieve our goals. The core executive functions are inhibitory control, working memory, and cognitive flexibility. And those help to build and create more complex skills, like problem solving, organizing, self-monitoring. And we know that they're critical for literacy skills. So if we are supporting young people's literacy development, we must be supporting their executive functioning skills. And our executive functions continue to develop in adolescence, and they're affected by stress, which we know our adolescents experience at high levels. But we can support students' literacy by scaffolding their executive functions and by helping them to manage their stress. And one way that we can help them manage their stress is through positive developmental relationships. And like I shared, the science tells a really optimistic story about what's possible for adolescents. And all of you are here because you want to support young people's literacy development. And you can use the tool that we shared today about executive function, the self-assessment, the planning tool, the student tool to support those executive functions. So I encourage you to try this tool tomorrow. This is, you saw it's easy to use. Any teacher of any tenure could use this. If you're in a coaching or leadership position, share this with your teachers. And like Gretchen shared, we also have over 100 other tools on our toolbox at the center that are free for any educator. And through Project Arise, we have 3 modules on executive function. So if you want to know more, if today was just the tip of the iceberg for executive functions, if you feel really passionate about this, you can sign up to take these free courses for all California educators. You can receive credits through UOP. You can receive a certificate of participation, but we are here to support you. We're so grateful that you joined us this afternoon. Coming up next, you're going to get a 1-pager like this in your email. It's going to have the session recording, the videos, the tools, and we have our next session for leaders. So if you want to share this with your principal, your superintendent, your coach, we will focus on leading for literacy and executive functioning next week. And then we also have one for community schools in December. But I encourage you to follow us on social media. I have it here, CCCOE Lit Project. So all things Project Arise are on these socials, as the young people say. You can also follow the Center for Whole Child Education. We're posting many free tools, resources, videos on Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok. So join us there. But last thing, we want you to give us some feedback on this session. How did it go? Was it helpful? And then we also are going to share that flyer that we shared at the beginning that has all of the literacy resources and opportunities that are available through Project Arise. That's going out as well. Project Arise is amazing. It's going through next year, 2026, March. So many things that you can do. Supports you can get for free from folks that are like Nicole and Matt and Gretchen and I that are passionate about California education, literacy, adolescence. Don't forget our socials. And for our remaining time, you are welcome to go, but the 4 of us will stay if you have any questions about Project Arise, about the courses, about executive functions, we're here. But thank you so, so much. You are incredible participants for a Monday in November. It's getting dark soon now because of daylight savings, but thank you so much. Give yourself so much gratitude. Have a wonderful week. Reach out to us. We're here. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Have a wonderful week.